Welcome into another episode of Tailgate Talk SEC. I am Will Thomas. Brian Kelly got fired today. Let me just fix my camera. Sorry, this will be a long one. So Brian Kelly just got fired. And this is just another domino in what is going to be the craziest coaching carousel that we've ever seen. Because I think it was Ross Dellinger. He already reported that the buyout money already in October has exceeded that of any other cycle in the past. Like, I'm out of words to describe just how crazy this is going to be. So once Kelly got fired, naturally I opened up Google Sheets and I started to try and put together a hot board really for every school that has an opening. And then off of that, if I think someone gets hired away, then working on the hot board for that school that would then need a new coach. It's not going awesome. I mean, there are so many good jobs and not that many great candidates. You know, because how many of these schools, especially in the SEC, are willing to take a chance on a sort of a project coach? You know, Florida won't. They've been going with project that hasn't worked. They're going to make a splash hire as Florida. I don't think LSU gets a project guy. In terms of SEC schools, I think they'll get a project guy. I think Ole Miss, maybe, if Kiffin goes away, they'll get a project guy. And I think Missouri might if Drinkwitz goes away. Like a school like Auburn, I think they're also in that group. You know, where it's going to be a group of five coach instead of, or maybe just a coordinator at a power school instead of a splash hire like we're seeing with some of the other schools to maybe go get. And like, you know, there's so much. My mind is going a million miles an hour, so you're going to have to bear with me if I trail off or just pause for a minute. But just running through what I have right now in terms of hot boards for these different schools. I'll start with LSU because they're the freshest one. Lane Kiffin to me is at the top of LSU's board. I'm going to bring up Kiffin's name a million times just during this video, and you're going to hear Lane Kiffin's name a trillion times just on social media. He is by far, in my opinion, the hottest coaching prospect on the market because of what he's done at Ole Miss, because we've seen what he'd done, you know, as a coordinator and then at other schools before he came back from his, you know, from life, and he's really done an incredible job at Ole Miss, and he's the hottest name on the board on the trail for a reason. So just Florida and LSU, Kiffin is at the top of their board for both of them. And I think it's going to be a total war because LSU is the only job, in my opinion, even before Kelly got fired, that could compete with Florida. I do think LSU is a better job than Florida. So it's going to be very interesting to see if LSU does want to go after Kiffin and if he's swayed by hearing them, or because the Kiffin to Florida stuff is well documented, right? Like there's clearly a degree of mutual interest. So does that change that LSU is open? I don't know. But for LSU, I think the top name is Lane Kiffin. I think the second name is Lincoln Riley. It's not a name that you hear a lot in these coaching searches because he's kind of at USC doing his own thing. It hasn't been the greatest situation. He's still Lincoln Riley, right? Like he still knows what he's doing. And if you dig into the metrics of who he is as a coach, let me pull these up actually because I figured I wouldn't be ready for the video I was making. But like, he's absolutely unbelievable in just overall what he's done, like win percentage wise. Right, he wins football games at a high level. He's at USC, so people kind of forget about it because all the way over in California, and now the USC's in the Big Ten. They're struggling against the big schools. Lincoln Riley wins football games, and he puts guys in the draft at an incredibly high rate, which obviously are great things. And his offensive identity, it's very clear. You know what Lane wants to do what Lincoln wants to do offensively, and he's a great offensive mind. And he's got a decent track record in these big games. You look at guys like Lane Kiffin. You look at James Franklin, who's also getting thrown around. They don't necessarily have the best big game record. Lincoln has a better big game record than those guys. Lincoln is a very established coach, but I do believe there's a very good chance he moves to a different job this offseason. Then on LSU's list, I have John Summerall at Tulane. He's a hell of a coach. He's really the group of five guy, group of six guy who's getting the most attention outside of Alex Golesh. I think Summerall is a real candidate being at Tulane, so he's familiar with the area. Nothing's too shocking. And then Joe Brady, the other guy I have on my list. He was their offensive coordinator, or at least, I forget exactly who it was, but on that 2019 LSU team. So he knows the school. He knows what it's like when that school is winning. And he's currently with the Buffalo Bills as their offensive coordinator. He's going to get a head coaching job this year. I'd be absolutely shocked if Joe Brady is not the coach of a college team in 2026. I think he comes back to college. And why not LSU? That's where he already has a background. That's where he's already won a championship. I think Brady's a name to watch for LSU. And obviously these lists, these coaching board lists, they're always incredibly fluid. Because all it takes is one tweet from his source to sway, every fan, every reporter one way or another. So the boards are very fluid, but for right now, those are my four names for LSU. I'll go to Florida now. My top name for Florida is still Lane Kiffin, and I do believe that if Florida wants Kiffin, they can get him. The question is, there's a lot of money involved, and with Ole Miss beating Oklahoma last week and just about putting Ole Miss in the playoff, that check got even higher, and it added more value to it now that LSU is open. So Florida's going to have to pay for Kiffin. We'll see if they do that. I think that they will, but we'll see what they do. If not, number 2 for Florida is far and away from me, Jedd Fisch at Washington. He's also not getting as much talk as I think he should be, but he turned Arizona into an immediate, I think, to New Year's Six Bowl when he was there. Now he's at Washington, and that team is criminally underranked because they're not ranked right now. But for Fisch, he has a great track record of putting guys into the pros. Man, this is just all over the place. There's so much to do. There's so much. He won't be that expensive. He won't be near as expensive as a guy like Kiffin or some of those splash hires, like a James Franklin or a Marcus Freeman. His trajectory is very good, I think, because he's still a young guy, and he's only been on the scene, the national radar, for just a few years. I think he has tons of years still ahead of him of winning big time games, and he has a good track record in winning big games. Jedd Fisch, also alum of Florida, he went to the school, and in this day and age of football, right, when there are coaching changes, the transfer portal really rears its head. So for Florida, if you're in a situation where DJ Lagway leaves, Jedd Fisch can bring over DeMond Williams from Washington, who is an absolute stud. And if you heard me say his name just now and didn't know who I'm talking about, look him up. Look up his tape. DeMond Williams is a lightning bolt. So Jedd Fisch could come over to Florida. He'll understand the school. He's a proven winner. And you will have a quarterback with Jedd Fisch. It'll either be Lagway or DeMond Williams. So Jedd Fisch, I think, is a great name. I have James Franklin as my third for the Gators. I have Fisch above him, which is recently that's clicked on my mind. But Franklin, I mean, he provides a floor for you, right? He's going to win 9 or 10 games every year, and last year he made it to the semifinals. And the biggest call on him is he can't win the big game. No coach can win the big game until they do it. Ryan Day couldn't win the big game until he won the national championship last year, in a year where he lost 2 games. Like, it happens. And now in this day and age of the sport, there's talent everywhere. No one is going to have a dominant record over great teams. And if you do, you're not going to get hired away. Kirby Smart is not getting hired away. Nick Saban, retired. Those are the 2 guys that you can look at and say, yeah, big game, I trust them. That's not how the sport works. So James Franklin, I think, providing a floor of 9 to 10 wins in the SEC, that's a playoff berth most years. So I think Franklin is a great option for Florida. And then the fourth name for the Gators, I do also have Lincoln Riley. Talked to him already with LSU, so I won't get into it. But Lincoln Riley, I think he could really move to an SEC school this year in this cycle and make a big impact at wherever he goes. I'm going to go to Arkansas now. My top name for Arkansas is Bobby Petrino. I think he wants that job full-time. That's why he's there. And I think you can look at what he's doing. The offense works great. He knows what he's doing. He's shown that he knows what he's doing in the past. And he knows the culture. He's a great fit at Arkansas. We've already seen that happen. So I think that Petrino is the top of the board for Arkansas. Then I've got Alex Golesh. I've got 3 smaller names. One of them is technically is a Power 4 coach. It's Rhett Lashley, who's also on this board. But I got Alex Golesh from USF. I have Summerall from Tulane. And I have Rhett Lashley at SMU. Arkansas is not going to be able to make the splash hire. They're just not, especially with how many other schools are competing and looking for a new job. So I do think they probably end up going with, if it's not Petrino, with a smaller name like a Golesh or a Summerall. And for Rhett Lashley, I said smaller name. He's at an ACC school. But just instead of where SMU is a smaller program, they're not as well documented or well established, in the power conferences. So I think Arkansas, they either stick with Petrino, or if not, they go Golesh, Summerall, or Rhett Lashley. And Eli Drinkwitz, I haven't brought up his name. He is a candidate, I think, to go to Florida. He might be one to go to LSU, I don't know, but I think there's a solid chance that Drinkwitz is not at Missouri next year because somebody hires him away. So for that reason, I've also got names for Missouri. Summerall is my top guy from Missouri, followed by Alex Golesh and Rhett Lashley. It's the exact same bottom 3 as Arkansas's list. A lot of these schools are going to be looking at the same guys. So it's going to be so much head-to-head competition on the coaching carousel for who gets who. And for Missouri, I also put Dan Mullen. Because Mullen, his time at Florida did not end very well. He took the time off to go be in TV. And when a head coach does TV, all that ADs see is them being geniuses. Because every head coach is a genius when it comes to football. Every single one is. The difference is that some of them don't know how to make that into a winning program. Mullen does. He's done it. And now he's doing it at UNLV. I think Mullen is going to move up to another Power 4 job this year, and I think Missouri is interesting. and also for Ole Miss, because I think Kiffin goes. Lincoln Riley is the top of my board for Ole Miss. I think Dan Mullen is also a candidate there. I think Drinkwitz could be a candidate at Ole Miss if, Kiffin goes first, then Drink subs in for him. Rhett Lashley is on my list for Ole Miss, and then Kenny Dillingham. Another name who's getting thrown around. He's getting lobbed around for FSU a lot, assuming FSU does move on from Norvell. But I think Dillingham, Arizona State, power school that made the playoff last year, there's a ceiling at Arizona State that there's not at these SEC schools. So I think Dillingham is an interesting name to watch to make a move up. And then Auburn, because I believe that Hugh Freeze is gone. John Summerall and Rhett Lashley, once again, are on my board for Auburn. I've also got John Gruden there for Auburn because Gruden wants to coach. And these SEC schools who don't have coaches, they're going to run out of candidates for all of them that are currently college guys with college experience. And then Gruden is going to become a name. I think Kentucky will open up also. I don't have them written down on my board yet, but I think Gruden could go to Kentucky. Maybe he could be a fit there. I think Gruden ends up at one of these smaller SEC schools, maybe also Arkansas, because he wants to coach. And colleges are going to, eventually, they're going to get desperate, right? Because these names are going to be flying off the board, especially for a school like a Missouri or an Auburn or a Kentucky who haven't yet fired their coach and aren't quite, at that phase of finding a new coach yet. I think Gruden is going to be an SEC school. I also have Kane Womack for Auburn, which is a politically incorrect answer because he's currently on staff at Alabama, but he's a rising name. I think he'll be a head coach next year. Auburn is probably not where he ends up, even though I have him there. But I just think it's an interesting fit because Auburn, I think they could benefit from having a guy like Womack as their head coach. I think they could. But man, this whole coaching carousel is crazy. I have these other non-SEC schools on here. I'll run through them. For Penn State, top guy is Matt Rule. Second guy is Marcus Freeman. I've got Joe Brady on Penn State's board as well, but also Will Stein, who is the offensive coordinator at Oregon. Now, Will Stein is another name to watch for one of these smaller SEC schools who maybe can't get an established Power 4 head coach and instead go with a coordinator at a championship caliber school like Oregon that can get Will Stein. For Florida State, I have James Franklin on top of FSU. Drinkwitz there. Jimbo Fisher is a name to watch for FSU to go back there as well. And then Jeff Brom, who I actually did not mention for an SEC school, really just because I just put 4 names down and moved on because of how hectic this all is. But Jeff Brom's a name to watch. I think out of all the guys who are sort of like these up-and-coming, smaller power school coaches, I think he's the least likely to leave because of the roots he has already in Louisville. So there's a good shot that Jeff Brom just stays put. But I think he's a name to watch. This is just so crazy. This whole coaching carousel is so nuts. There are so many jobs that are already open. There are a ton of jobs that are going to open, whether that's because they're about to fire their coaches or because their coach is about to get hired away. I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm not going to be... This is already freaking me out. Like, the overstimulation of trying to figure out the coaching hot board as is right now is crazy. As the jobs just keep opening up and you keep hearing new reports about this guy, the flight tracking season is going to be crazy. People are going to be tracking every flight ever, and it's all going to be on social media, and it's going to be glorious to watch. But man, this coaching carousel is just crazy. So that's kind of my hot board right now for each school. Obviously, incredibly subject to change, like all of these always are, really just week to week. And as you see how current coaches react to the media, how they answer. Mike Elko, another name. I'm all over the place. But Mike Elko, I'd be shocked if he leaves A&M, but he's out there also for a school like Penn State because he's from the Northeast. But Elko could move. If Elko moves and that A&M job opens up, I'm going to give up. I'm just going to give up, and I'm going to take a long break from even trying to cover the sport. But man, this coaching carousel is something else, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. So, obviously, Tailgate Talk SEC, we're going to be live covering this the entire time it's going on. Done so much coverage on Napier, a ton of coverage on Kelly Nut already. This video is sort of a touching base like on where I think each board is at. But follow me on W Thomas Sports on X. Subscribe to this channel. Tailgate Talk SEC on TikTok, podcast, all of it. We're going to have everything coaching carousel for you guys. So if you like this video, you want to just see more coaching carousel content, we'll still be doing our game previews, everything. So much stuff going on. So much stuff going on. So if you liked it, please subscribe. I've been Will Thomas, and thank you so much for watching.